Give me 5 minutes and I'll change the whole way that you look at things. The reason that you don't hear pros make mistakes is because when pros make a mistake, they hear it before anyone else does. There are 2 primary ways that you can begin to practice that skill and develop it for yourself right now. For instance, Chet Atkins made a mistake in Little Rock Getaway. The melody is supposed to be this. Midway through the arrangement, he gets 1 fret off and accidentally plays the wrong note. But he resolved it. And the take went on and the record got released. Jimi Hendrix is just a little bit out of time with the rest of the band on the downbeat of the first verse of The Wind Cries Mary, and they kept it in the master recording. Eric Clapton plays a bad note on an Aretha Franklin session somewhere in the late 1960s, where it's a passing diminished chord. The more you do this, the more you begin to appreciate how completely imperfect all of your favorite players are. Anytime you hit a real clunker, you are only 1 fret away from something that could have been used as a springboard to save the entire phrase and to fool everyone. Or among the many one-liners that Vince Gill has given that stuck with me for life, 1 fret makes a hell of a difference. Step 1. Hear the note before you play it, so that your ears and your hands are one seamless link. To accomplish that, practice these 2 things. If it's repertoire, get away from the guitar and just think about the fingerboard, think about your hands playing it. Ted Green talked about practicing this way, and Ted was a genius. You can do that even as you're falling asleep in bed at night. Think about the guitar, think about your hands on the guitar, and think about yourself playing that piece of music that you're working on. You want to see your finger on the right string, on the right fret, so when you're memorizing how to play something, you're not stuck just looking straight down at the guitar with the guitar in your hands. You're forming a complete link where you see it and you hear it any time of day, anywhere. Of course, this means you have to learn how to play it first, but once you do, get away from tabs, get away from transcription books, get away from practicing exclusively with it in your hands, and start to practice it when you're nowhere near the guitar. But I bet more of us want to do that when we're improvising something, coming up with something in the moment, or coming up with a simple part, or trying to compose something. Towards those ends, you're going to have to throw away any self-consciousness you have. Even if you don't feel like you can sing at all, even if you can't carry a tune in a bucket, I don't care, sing. What you want to do is get the guitar in your hands, sing something, think about it on the fingerboard, then put your fingers there and play it. So if I was just playing any improvised blues lick in the key of A, I would forget about my hands and forget about playing altogether, sit there in my practice room. I might imagine I want to hear the notes. Can we all just acknowledge that Jack Bruce had a wonderful hum? Where do you want to go from there? And you just keep building it that way. If you hear it in your head, but it doesn't make it out of your hands, then when you're sitting there practicing in your practice room, practice for that. If instead of, suppose you don't make this note, and suppose your hand accidentally goes, normally that'd be a real bad, awful sounding note, but when you're on your toes and you're listening and you train yourself to do this in the practice room, practice everything side by side. So you want, and you go, well, this is the clunker, this is a terrible note, but I'm going to practice what happens and how can I train myself to hear this in rapid time, where in the real world, I'll adapt, improvise, overcome, fool everyone. You just slide into it. You've got a nanosecond to hear that and to respond. But if you do, nobody will even know you made a mistake. Let's extend that further to something with the potential to be even more embarrassing. If you intended to hit A over a blues in A, and you do the Clapton thing where you hit it, and then on the adjacent string you slide into the unison pitch and give it some vibrato, what are you going to do if your hand slides up and you're 1 fret too high when you land? Believe me, it happens. Look, I love John Coltrane and Sonny Rollins, but this is not jazz. That's a really bad note. But if you're on your toes and you train yourself to respond, you're going to find that sometimes you can save it with an ascent, and sometimes a descent will be okay. But sometimes it'll be one or the other, never both. If you try to save that with a descent, it's not going to quite work. Just sounds like you resolved a bad note, but you hit a bad note. Crap, I suck. And the mistake's not disguised. So trying to descend from the B flat back into the A, that's not going to save it. Work that out in the practice room. Particularly playing the blues, you can always bend into something good. So to briefly recap, the first concept is you hear the note before you play it, while taking conscious steps in the practice room to work out ways that you'll escape from what otherwise may be real clunkers out there in the real world. That's the first core concept. The second core concept is rhythm. Always be conscious of rhythm, be working to develop your rhythm. I've got other videos on developing good time, so to keep this very brief, music is just like language. There are patterns of meter and patterns of stress and lack of stress. Shakespeare, iambic pentameter, that sort of stuff. It's the same way with rhythm. This is all in the book if my masterpiece ever sees the light of day. Bob Dylan, When I Paint My Masterpiece. Although I prefer the version by the band. To keep this very simple, in a series of eighth notes, you have strong, weak, strong, weak, strong, weak, strong, weak. In triplets, you have strong, weak, weak, strong, weak, weak, strong, weak, weak. And you hear it when you play. If I play a series of eighth notes, not every single note is the same volume. Here's a secret. All my favorite guitar players, pretty much they were all rhythm kings. Yeah, I can take you from Chet Atkins to the Rolling Stones in about 25 moves in my record collection and tell you exactly how I got there. Thank you, Uncle Gene. The important thing is that as you're developing a good sense of rhythm and a good sense of time, a weak beat you can get away with more on a weak beat, and you have a little bit more time to resolve anything that's a bad note. This is exactly how and why Chet got away with it in Little Rock Getaway. In that melody, he hits the mistake on the end of beat 2. That's a weak part of the beat. And because it's a weak part of the beat, and because it resolves down a half step to a strong chord tone on beat 3, he gets away with it. And when I talk about different styles and different kinds of players, it's because these are concepts of music. It has nothing to do with style. I truly believe in my heart, if you learn how music works and you learn music, then you can do whatever you want with it stylistically. You can express yourself however you want with it. Learn about the basic building blocks of music and how music works. You gotta take your heroes off the pedestal. Every single last one of them. Pros make tons of mistakes. It's that we know how to get out of them. If you've enjoyed this, the very best thing you can do is tell people this space exists and share this video. The rapidly increased upload schedule is an attempt that I'm giving my very best shot at to kick the algorithm into gear, to build a community that's good for everyone. I don't believe in any secrets about the guitar anymore. So if I can show you something that's going to help you out, I'll show it to you. It's supposed to be a lot of fun to play the guitar, and if it's not fun, I highly suggest changing your approach so that it becomes fun. Enjoy the getting there, and I'll see you again in the next video on Down the Line.